Hey y'all, if there is one thing I cannot stand, it is tossing and turning at night because I'm hot and I'm uncomfortable. But all that ended when I was introduced to Cozy Earth. Crafted from 100% bamboo, these sheets are not only incredibly soft, but also they're breathable, they're moisture wicking, and they keep me cool and comfortable all night long. I literally sink into the bed and feel like I am sleeping on a cloud. They have everything from sheet sets to complete bedding bundles to comforters, everything you're going to need to get a night's sleep. And the brand has been featured on Good Morning America, In Style, Better Homes and Gardens. And guess what? They don't stop with bedding either. They got pajamas for both men and women. And I am telling you, they are the most comfortable pajama sets I have ever worn. They have bath towels, robes, tops, hoodies. If you wear it, sleep on it, or dry off with it, they got it. With free shipping on orders over $50, a 100-night sleep trial, and a 10-year warranty, Cozy Earth will bring you what it brought me: a good night's sleep and a whole lot of comfort. Exposed Podcast has partnered with Cozy Earth to offer my listeners 41% off by using the code EXPOSED at checkout. That's 41% off by going to CozyEarth.com and using the code EXPOSED at checkout. Sleep better, live better, choose Cozy Earth. Sweet dreams await.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Also that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next-day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Thirty-one years old. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed during an event at a college in Utah.
Charlie has died. That he's dead. At the age of 31, which he would have to be if that video was real.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and today we are going to take a deep dive because a lot of things bother me in both the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the subsequent arrest of the person that is allegedly responsible. So today I'm going to explore some theories with you that have surfaced that raise some eyebrows, not only mine, but many other people out there as well. And we're going to also look into this alleged shooter and what is known about him. So first off, I don't like to give these people that murder for the sake of an ideology a platform. So you get his name one time, and then I will only refer to this guy by his initials. We'll get into him first and then the theories. So on September 12th, authorities arrested 22-year-old Washington, Utah resident Tyler Robinson after a 2-day manhunt. Now, how did they catch him? Well, the same way the vast majority of crimes are solved, quite frankly, through tips. Now, there was a lot to sift through. Over 11,000 tips had been called in by the time they caught TR, which is the most tips ever since the Boston Marathon bombing. But it was one in particular that led to TR's capture. So before we go any further, I want to address something that really kind of stuck in my craw, man. The governor of Utah, he gets up and he's going to have a press conference to announce the arrest of TR. And the first words that come out of his mouth are, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him." And I don't know. It was the way he said it. And then he kind of pauses after it as if he's waiting for some sort of applause. And then he goes into how the capture went down, etc. But I want you to listen to this 10-second clip.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th.
I mean, is it just me? Or does this guy seem almost like he was about to start bragging? Now, while it's great the alleged shooter is caught, it took 2 days and a tip from his dad and his dad's friend and pastor to do it. I just don't feel like this is the time for backslapping or to stand up in front of a microphone and say, "Good morning, we got him." But what are your thoughts on that? Is it just me? Am I being a little harsh? But back to it, the governor continues on and he says that Robinson's father recognized his son in the pictures that the FBI released. And he goes and he talks to his son and he basically says, "Did you do this?" And his son apparently admitted to it. And the father said, "Well, you need to turn yourself in." And the son said, "Screw that. I'll kill myself first." So the father, not really knowing what to do, contacts the pastor friend of his that is the pastor for his family. And this pastor, in addition to being a youth pastor, was also a United States Marshal. And he basically tells him, and I'm paraphrasing here, "My son killed Charlie Kirk and I don't know what to do." And the marshal advises the father to not let the son out of his sight. And then, of course, this marshal contacts some people and they go pick up TR. Now, the governor also mentioned in an interview with TR's roommate that the roommate showed police a text from TR telling his friend something to the effect of, quote, "You need to retrieve the rifle from the drop point," and then he would leave the rifle in a bush. Now, the text also mentioned engraved bullets and saying the scope and the rifle were unique. So to be super accurate here, the shooter was caught 33 hours after the event. And the FBI, they responded to the shooting of Charlie Kirk within 16 minutes, according to FBI Director Kash Patel. So because accuracy matters here on Exposed, I have the actual affidavit of arrest in front of me, which details this guy's movements. So I'm going to cover that official document for you quickly. It reads, on September 10th of 2025, Charles James Kirk was at Utah Valley University campus in Orem, Utah for a political event. Mr. Kirk is a conservative political activist who was scheduled to speak at an event in the courtyard on the UVU campus. The courtyard area is west of the Locy Center building. According to video recordings, Charlie is wearing a white t-shirt and dark pants sitting under a white canopy in the courtyard of the campus facing to the east. The event was attended by hundreds of individuals, and actually that should read thousands because there were 3,000 people there. Charlie was surrounded by people with multiple individuals to his left, right, and rear and in front of the canopy. Behind the canopy was a walkway used for access to various parts of the university. Charles was holding a microphone and speaking to the crowd. While speaking into the microphone, a loud gunshot was heard at approximately 12:23 hours, and Charlie appeared to have been hit in the neck. Blood was seen coming out of the left side of his neck. As he fell over to his left, he was transported to the regional hospital in Orem and pronounced deceased at the hospital. Investigators reviewed the Utah Valley University surveillance cameras, and while reviewing the surveillance, investigators observed an individual on the rooftop of the Locy Center on the UVU campus at the time of the shooting. Hereafter, the unidentified individual will be referred to as suspect, and of course, he's identified now. Based on the surveillance camera footage, the suspect appears to be a white male with dark-colored hair, wearing a dark-colored hat, sunglasses, a long-sleeve black shirt, and a picture of an American flag and eagle printed on that shirt. Dark-colored jeans and white-gray shoes with white-colored shoelaces. The shoes appear to be consistent with Converse-style shoes. The suspect is also carrying a dark-colored backpack on his back. He walks with a distinctive gait, which is a limp. Prior to the shooting, the suspect appears to walk with a stiff right leg and at a relatively slow pace. The suspect's ability to bend his right leg appeared to be restricted. Investigators were able to track the suspect's movements on the UVU campus starting at approximately 11:50 hours on 9/10 of 25. At approximately 11:50 hours, surveillance cameras first captured the suspect walking across a grassy area north of Campus Drive at approximately 800 West. Suspect walked south through the parking lot and approached a pedestrian tunnel that runs underneath Campus Drive. Before entering the tunnel, the suspect paused at the top of the stairs and pulled out what appeared to be a cell phone from his right pocket. Using his right hand at approximately 11:53 hours, suspect eventually put what appeared to be a cell phone back in his right pants pocket using his right hand. Surveillance captured the suspect making his way toward the Locy Center. At approximately 12:02, the suspect was recorded walking on the north side of the Locy Center building. Walking with the same gait as observed earlier, suspect entered the Locy Center building through a set of doors on the southeast corner of the Locy Center building. At approximately 12:15, the suspect was observed walking up to the stairs leading to the common area adjacent to the Locy Center building. Suspect walked to a short concrete wall that separates the common area from the rooftop of the Locy Center building. At approximately 12:17, the suspect climbed over a short wall and appeared to crouch down on the north side of the wall on the rooftop. At approximately 12:22, the suspect stood up and started running across the rooftop of the Locy Center building. The notable limp from previous surveillance was absent. Suspect ran to the west side of the rooftop and appeared to scoot along the rooftop area as he got closer to the edge of the rooftop. At approximately 12:22, the suspect laid down in a position consistent with a prone shooting position near the edge of the rooftop and appeared to be facing west in the direction of the courtyard area. The rooftop of the Locy Center building overlooks the courtyard area where the event featuring Charlie Kirk was taking place. The Locy Center building is east of the courtyard area. At approximately 12:23, Charlie Kirk was shot. At approximately 12:23, surveillance showed the suspect stand up suddenly from the edge of the rooftop and sprint north on the rooftop of the Locy Center building. Suspect ran to the northeast corner of the Locy Center building and approached the edge of the rooftop. Suspect placed a dark-colored item on the rooftop and proceeded to lower himself off the rooftop. Suspect dropped off the rooftop onto the grass below. Suspect ran north near the parking lot to the east of the Locy Center, and at approximately 12:24, suspect ran north across Campus Drive Road. Now, let's pause right here for a second. At approximately 12:23, Charlie Kirk was shot. According to the actual document here, the affidavit of arrest, at approximately 12:24, 60 seconds later, the suspect had already gotten off that roof and was running across Campus Drive Road in 1 minute, 60 seconds.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
That seems strange to me. Suspect appeared to be carrying an item whose identity is not clear from the surveillance. The area to the north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions had been engraved on the casings found with the rifle. I'm not going to tell you what those are yet. Because I'm going to get into those and what they mean. Investigators also discovered a shoe impression on the northeast corner rooftop edge of the Losey Center building, and that shoe impression was located in the vicinity where the suspect climbed down from the rooftop. The shoe impression is consistent with the shoe sole characteristics of a Converse Chuck Taylor shoe. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with the information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. The information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and senior investigators at UVU. The information was then conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on the campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, early morning hours, he was observed in consistent clothing with surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in a conversation with that family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Interviewed the roommate, who stated his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show the messages to them on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of those messages, including messages affiliated with the contact, Tyler, stating he needed to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving a rifle in a bush, as well as messages related to visually watching the area where the rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact, Tyler, also mentioned that he had changed outfits. Based on this evidence detailed, I believe there's probable cause to arrest this guy. So that's the actual affidavit. Now, we're about to get into some stuff. Now, there are so many questions that we're going to cover today. But before we do, let's talk about what we know about who this kid is. Some of this I just covered in the affidavit. He was 22 years old. He was born and raised in Utah. This kid was always a smart kid. His intellect was above and beyond what maybe the average kids would be. He grew up in a Republican household. Both of his parents were registered Republican. His dad is a carpenter. He works on countertops. His mother is a social worker. He was raised, like most people in Utah, as a Mormon. And when he was younger, he was described as very active in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But as he got older, he would become less involved. Now, he graduates high school and he scores a nearly perfect 34 on the ACT. Good enough that he gets an academic scholarship to Utah State University, a full ride for 4 years. But he transfers out after one semester, and there's not much information as to why. He does continue to go to college and actually attends Dixie Community College in Utah. It's more of a technical college. And he was on the voting rolls as an independent in Utah. So he did not affiliate with the Republican Party as his parents did. He had no criminal record at the time of his arrest, and he was working as a custodian at an elementary school. So a family member that was interviewed by investigators, and they don't specify who it was, they told investigators that TR in the past couple of years became extremely political. As I referenced in that affidavit, they said he was full of hate and he spewed hate. And what happened in the last couple of years? Well, he started college.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full up front. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
And I'm not trying to start shit here, but I'm going to tell you the facts. College indoctrinates a lot of kids. And it almost seemed as though this kid got indoctrinated. Now, that is totally my opinion. That is totally conjecture at this point. I have no direct knowledge of that. But a lot of kids get indoctrinated. And I'm speaking from experience because I got 3 kids. One just graduated from college. The other 2 are going into their junior years. And I know what goes on. I know what the vast majority of these professors are telling these kids first fucking hand, but we'll move on. So that's what we know so far as it relates to TR as I'm recording this.
Jim, did you see what happened in Texas today?
Wait, before you tell me that, let me tell you what happened in New York.
It cannot be as crazy as the case I told you about yesterday in Louisiana.
You know what? We should do a podcast about it.
And with that, we did. Crime Wire Weekly covers the crime news headlines that have dominated the week.
We cover trending crimes from all over the country and even sprinkle in a few globally.
Crime Wire Weekly is available now wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Simply by searching Crime Wire Weekly or clicking the link in the description of this podcast. Let's move on into the theories. And let me preface everything I'm about to go over with, I personally am as far from a conspiracy theorist as you can get. As a matter of fact, I look at things most times the total opposite of the way someone that was looking for a conspiracy would look at it. I look at things as I'm going to take the investigation as its word, but I'm going to look at that, and when things don't make sense, that's when I call them out, not the other way around, where you've got to prove to me your investigation is accurate. I kind of look at that in the opposite, but this one's got some problems. Now, I like to get only facts. Conspiracy theories, for the most part, they lead down an endless tunnel of rabbit holes. But one thing I believe is in asking questions. We should ask questions when things don't make sense. Maybe there's a totally legitimate reason for what we're being told. But if they don't tell us, we don't know. And if we don't ask questions, they're not going to volunteer it, right? I believe that when things do not add up, the onus is on us to ask the questions and to find out why and to hold our government accountable or investigators accountable or whoever it is to us with this entire deal right here. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Stuff that just don't make sense to me and many others. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, first up, let's talk about the signals. You may say, what do you mean signals? Well, when Charlie was speaking, just prior to the shooting, there were two what are assumed to be bodyguards behind Charlie. And there's a lot of people in the crowd and they're filming Charlie. And you can see behind him these two guys, and they're using what is known in the military as tactical signals. And notice I didn't say they appeared to be using tactical signals because, folks, I got a lot of experience with this and I know what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, these guys, beyond a shadow of a doubt, were using tactical signals. These were not natural movements. So what does that mean? What were these guys saying? Let me break this down for you. You got two guys here, one with a white shirt and a white hat. The other guy in a black shirt, he had a sleeve of tattoos, and they were positioned behind Charlie, but they were on the sides of Charlie, not directly behind him. Now, about 3 seconds before the shot, the man in white touches the front of his hat, and that is tactical signal number one. It indicates sniper. The man in white then touches the side of his face, and that indicates male figure. And this occurs in about a second and a half, maybe even less. Then, immediately, the guy in the black shoots his arm straight out with his palm down. And that indicates one of two things. It can indicate commence firing, or it could indicate someone is about to commence firing. And the next signal is important because that kind of tells me what the signal I just discussed with you means. The next signal, he places his left arm crossing his torso, which indicates imminent danger, serious and immediate threat. Now, at that very moment, the shot rings out. These are all facts, and there's several ways to look at this. First, did the bodyguards spot the sniper? And it appears to me that they were not communicating with the sniper, and that's kind of what's being circulated out there in social media. They weren't talking to a shooter. They were talking to each other. When you have bodyguards, and this is the case with most public figures, they'll have bodyguards that served in the military, Navy SEALs, you name it. And these guys communicate via sign language. Now, these are all the facts, and there's several ways to look at this. First, did the bodyguards spot the sniper? And it appears that they were communicating with each other. The guy in black did look at the guy in white. Did they see this sniper and just did not react quickly enough? Now, the protocol in this situation is to cover and smother. And it's interesting to note that the guy in black looks exactly like the guy who carried Trump off the stage during the Pennsylvania shootings. But everything coming out right now is saying that's a completely different guy. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole because it really is relevant to what we're talking about here. But here's the deal on the signals theory. This is my opinion only. I don't think anything nefarious was going on with these guys. I believe these two bodyguards were talking to each other. And to break down into layman's terms, okay, if they were having this conversation out loud rather than using tactical signals, here's what it would have sounded like in my view. The guy in white is saying, hey, I see a male sniper. The guy in black is saying he's about to shoot right now. And then, folks, the shot rings out right after he says he's about to shoot right now. So they didn't have time to react. So what questions should we be asking? Regardless of my belief that these were good guys, if you will. Well, we need to know who they are. What is their background? And why, if in fact they did spot TR, why did they not immediately cover and smother? Why did they take the 3 seconds to talk to each other? There may be a completely legit reason for that, but I want to know. Now, one thing I can tell you with a very high degree of certainty is that the FBI knows who these guys are, and likely they've been interviewed. I would almost go out on a limb and say I'm positive about that. If the FBI wants to put this theory to bed, though, they need to be transparent and maybe address it. One of these guys is holding out a cell phone, the guy in white. He's holding out a cell phone the whole time. And some people have a theory that this was a wind speed detector to aid a sniper. But I don't think so. I think this is a scanner. It's a specific instrument to detect firearms, and it probably runs through an app. And let me say again, this is my opinion. I have no direct knowledge, but what I can tell you is I have some friends who own a company, and they offer video surveillance, and they sell this video surveillance to hospitals, to schools, to prisons, and they can detect through AI certain shapes of things. So I'm going to give you an example. If this security system was put in a school and they programmed it to pick up every time that a kid made a motion towards his mouth with something like a cigarette, it can pick that up and it will alert the school office that someone is smoking on floor number 2 in that particular school. You can also load firearms into it, thousands of firearms, and it can detect the shape of those firearms. And it will do it to a like 99.99% degree of certainty. And it will alert, if it's a prison, hey, somebody in this pod has a firearm. Those sorts of things. Look, this guy in white, this bodyguard, he's not filming the crowd because he's taking footage for the TikTok videos that Charlie Kirk is going to put out. That's not why he was holding a cell phone the entire time. It's my belief he was scanning rooftops. And it's my belief that as he was scanning those rooftops, just before he touches the bill of that hat, he got a hit because that kid stuck his head up and he saw that gun, and he was communicating to the other bodyguard and telling him there's a male sniper on the freaking roof. The other bodyguard looked up and confirmed that and basically said, yeah, he's there and he's about to shoot. And they just did not have time beyond that to do anything. That's my belief. Now, I will be posting some pretty interesting stuff related to this on the Patreon, so check that out if you're not a member. Now, let's get into the day of the shooting. And there are many things that don't add up for me here. Let's talk about the videos that we know to exist. We see a video just prior to the shooting of TR, and he's walking through a neighborhood, and he has a distinct limp. Now, no rifle is present in his hands. So the assumption here is that the rifle was shoved down his pants leg.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Weight loss solutions are not one size fits all. Hers makes it simpler to get started and stick with a weight loss plan, backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals first. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
And man, this is a tough one for me. 30-06 is a full-length firearm, meaning it measures 40 inches or so in length, which is over 3 feet. And before we go any further, I spoke to an expert about this, and he is of the same belief I am that this shit just don't fly. Doesn't seem possible. And this is really where it gets hazy for me. Now, the report says he was walking through that neighborhood prior to the shooting. However, I'm starting to question that if it was after the shooting when he was caught limping through that neighborhood, which would make much more sense to me since we have video of this guy jumping off a roof that was, several stories high, where he certainly could have injured his ankle, injured his leg, and that would explain the limping. But the official report says he arrived on campus in a gray Challenger. So why is he running through a neighborhood? I don't know. I don't get it. None of that makes sense. But let's talk about this rifle thing. This weapon's over 3 feet long. Now, I took a tape measure, and I'm almost 6 feet. I'm just shy of 6 feet tall. I stretched that tape measure out at the same length of a 30-06. And guess what? That would go about 4 inches above my waist. And what the investigation is wanting us to believe is that he walked through a campus with a 30-06 shoved down his pants. Now, another thing I noticed in that surveillance footage, those pants ain't baggy. I mean, they appear to fit him. If you're going to shove a 30-06 down your pants, wouldn't you buy a waist size that was 3 or 4 sizes larger than what you'd normally wear? How are you going to fit it in there? But it's not like the legs of his pants are super baggy. Something is not right with that. It just doesn't wash with me. But that's the story that we're being told. Now, not only does he shove the thing down his pants, get through campus, but he walks up flights of stairs with a 30-06 shoved down his pants. How do you even get up the stairs without basically grabbing the sides of the stairs and limping your way up them? Because you cannot bend your leg. He couldn't even have a slight bend in his leg if he's got a rifle shoved down it. I don't buy that. I got no proof. I got no direct knowledge. But that seems like some major bullshit right there. Now, they've got all this video that they've released and several pictures they've released. Raise your hand if you've seen a picture of him with a gun. I've seen not one picture of this kid with a gun. I see him limping and they're saying he's got a gun in his pants, But I don't see a picture of that kid with a gun. It don't exist. Or if it exists, they're not showing it to us. Same thing with video. No video of him with a gun in his hands. As a matter of fact, and we're going to lead to another issue with this investigation, the way it went down that we're being told, and that is that he jumped off that roof, and we have the video of him jumping off of a roof. Do you see a gun in that video? I don't. Now, granted, it's very grainy. It looks like something Bigfoot would put out, a Bigfoot sighting, grainy like that. Imagine that, 2025, you can't get a clear picture of nothing. And he's definitely carrying something in his hand. A lot of people say that's the backpack. I say it's a towel, but there ain't a gun in that picture that I've been able to see. So if it exists, FBI, whoever, law enforcement in that community, release it so that we can put that to bed. But regardless of that, with what we have to go off of, the kid gets down off of the building. He runs through some woods. We're being told that he hides this gun in a towel, and then he disappears into oblivion. Now, immediately following Charlie Kirk's shooting, a middle-aged man who had apparently had some issues, I don't have any doubt about that, he gets taken down. And a lot of people say he was a diversion. Who knows? I don't know. I know one thing, he was crazy because he was screaming, "Shoot me," as they were carrying him out of the place. But he was released, and we are being told he had absolutely nothing to do with this. Then, and look, I've been a supporter of Kash Patel since he was brought on as FBI director. I've read his book. I've had a lot of respect for Kash. But honestly, he totally screws the pooch when he comes out with a post on X, and he proclaimed, and I quote, "The subject for this horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is in custody." Now, that was 4 hours after the shooting. And guess what? That dude gets released. And that is a major fuck up right there. You can't do that as FBI director. I understand maybe he got some bad intel or whatever it was, but you cannot do that. Why is that an issue? Because guess what? Everybody stops looking at that point. Everybody, the whole public stops looking. Another thing I had an issue with, they had pictures, they had video. They came out and said they had this early on in the investigation, but released absolutely none of it. Why? Because every minute that you take, that you don't release pictures or video, and the guy is on the loose, you take a chance of somebody else getting hurt or killed. You also take a chance of this guy being able to get away. And you know what? They released the pictures, and that's how they caught him, because his dad recognized him. You should have released those way early in day one. You had the pictures. You did not. I don't understand why. I don't get that. Now, there's also a theory that TR and Charlie had a run-in once before. There's a video that's going around. It's viral, and it's saying that this guy in custody, it was determined that him and Charlie had a debate on a campus. Look, the guy that was having the debate, I'll give it to you, he looks very similar to the guy that they have in custody, but not similar enough that I think it's the same person. I'm just not convinced, but I'll go ahead and I'll play you the audio of that back and forth with Charlie Kirk and this guy, and I'll put the video on Patreon for you to watch if you're a Patreon member. Here's that.
Hey, this guy just lies. Hey, no. He's a liar. So, okay. He can't debate. He just lies.
Okay, so let's just calm down a little bit.
So watch the pause. Well, I mean, you could say whatever you want if you want to make a fool of yourself, but we do have like 10-year-olds here and 11-year-olds, so can we have some decency? Whatever. Okay, you don't care. You're a typical leftist because you only care about yourself, Who said I was not a about leftist?
Oh.
The other people.
Who said I was a leftist?
Now, another theory refers to two shooters, and the reason that people are doing that is the 911 dispatch that came out, the actual dispatch clip. And it talks about people relaying what the shooter looks like, how he's dressed, etc. And it stated from the dispatcher to police that witnesses on the scene are saying this guy's dressed in all black with a tactical helmet on. Folks, there is no way in the world that a baseball cap can be mistaken for a tactical helmet. So I want you to listen to this dispatch audio.
And let's be advised, UVU in Orem has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information. Is going to be wearing all black, black long gun, black tactical helmet, a black mask, possibly wearing a tactical vest and jeans. Maybe the PS building is just east of the library. He's wearing jeans, black shirt, black mask, long rifle.
And what you heard there was black shirt, black vest, black tactical helmet, dark jeans. And that's not the guy that was arrested. That's not the guy that we saw in those pics with a baseball cap on. Now, that's just something to think about. I will tell you that eyewitness accounts are about the most inaccurate accounts that you can ever get. Look, if a guy goes in and robs a bank and there's 6 people in that bank, 3 of them are going to say he had on something he did not have on. I mean, it happens all the time. But man, it is really hard to mistake a black tactical helmet with a baseball cap. Really hard to screw those two things up. So even on my own page, Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite's Facebook page, some great questions and some strange statements that I'm going to address. And first, I'm going to address Julie Ann Lincia Crawford. And she said on my Facebook page that it was a setup, that Charlie was talking too much about Epstein and Orange Cheeto. And of course, she's referring to President Trump. So let's address this, because this is a classic diversion tactic. Now, it's safe to say that I think Miss Crawford is not a Trump fan. And either she is way left, or she just doesn't have any party at all and is just a shit starter. Either way, 2 problems with that theory. First, conflating Epstein with this is just freaking stupid. And second, Trump absolutely loved Charlie. So I would invite Miss Crawford to do her fucking research. The whole Trump family was very tight with Charlie. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump Jr. looked at him as a little brother. That's how much he loved Charlie Kirk. That's someone who is spewing the same bullshit that gets us in the situations that we're in today. Plain and simple. Sorry, you're wrong. Do your research. This had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Keep reaching. But what those people try to do is they try to take the heat away from where it belongs. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are out of touch with what's going on. So let's discuss real quick the left and what they've had to say. Now, many are on the same side as the right. They are denouncing political violence in any way, shape, or form. And some seem to really be sincere with, I'm sorry this happened and our thoughts and prayers are with Charlie's family, those sort of things. Barack Obama came out and he said some very, what you would expect, nice things about Charlie Kirk and the situation and how we don't want this shit here in the United States. Same thing with Joe Biden. But you also have some people that lack any sort of empathy at all. And that brings me to a conversation between Ilhan Omar, who is a congresswoman for the state of Minnesota. And notice I said for and not from. And that's because she is not from the state of Minnesota. She is from Somalia. But she is talking about Kirk's assassination with a guy by the name of Mehdi Hassan. And he's a broadcaster from Great Britain who now lives here in the United States. And this is likely going to piss you off a little bit. I want you to listen to this.
What I do know for sure is that, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives. After a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
So here's why you just absolutely have to love America. You have two people here, Ilhan Omar, who's from Somalia, as I said, and she immigrated to the U.S. because we are who we are. She has a privilege of serving in Congress. And you have a reporter from Great Britain who lives here now, and we give him, well, both of them citizenship. And both of these folks absolutely take every opportunity they can to not only shit on America, but also say stupid shit like what I just played. Basically saying Charlie Kirk's dead because he supported the Second Amendment. And we shouldn't feel sorry for him because it's kind of his fault. Make no mistake about it. Ilhan Omar hates everything freedom stands for. I said what I said. So let's get into another theory, which is the Mossad theory. And some are saying, and for those that don't know, the Mossad is like Israel's version of the CIA. That Charlie Kirk was having kind of some issues with the Mossad. I don't buy it because Trump was close to Charlie. Trump's family was close to Charlie, as I just said, and he never would have allowed it. And I understand Israel's got money and all those sorts of things, but Israel is not going to do shit like that without the approval of the president. I promise you, because if it was found out that they did, there would be hell to pay. That's all I can say. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into that theory. Now let's talk about the meaning of the etchings that were found on those bullet casings. So there were 4 etchings. 1 was on a spent casing and 3 were on non-fired casings. Now on the fired casing, the etching read, "Notices bulges, OWO in all caps. What is this? Question mark." Now OWO is a slang expression. It's really an emoji that is used in text communications to convey surprise or excitement. And the phrase "notices bulges" is a piece of internet slang often paired with OWO. And it was a meme way back from 2018 and 2019. And it refers to the visible outline of male genitalia through clothing. The second casing had "Hey Fascist, catch." And then it had an arrow up, an arrow to the right, an arrow down, and then 2 other arrows down. And what does that mean? It's a sequence of control inputs in a video game known as Helldivers 2, which is a game that relates to fascist and authoritarianism, and they fight enemies for democracy. That's what that game's all about. So it makes sense, right? The next bullet casing had "Oh Bella Ciao," and it's actually a anti-fascist song. And then the final casing said, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." And of course, what that means stands for itself. So that covers the bullet casings and what they mean. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the shot that was actually fired. Yes, that was an easy shot with a 30-06 from 200 yards out. It's not a hard shot necessarily. What surprised me was the fact that this 22-year-old kid could make that shot with the pressure involved, coupled with the inexperience of the shooter. I mean, he has no criminal record, so we're not going to assume that the guy has killed somebody before. And it seems like the circumstances would make that a harder shot. Not to mention, you're shooting at a human being. You're not shooting at a deer. But as someone pointed out to me on Facebook, I'm looking at this situation as a person who does not have hate in his heart. When you do have hate in your heart, the pressure alleviates a little bit because you want to kill that person. So I'm glad I can't relate to that. It just seemed like a harder shot apparently than it was to me. So lastly, today, let's get into the forensics of all this, because that's important and it's very interesting. And we're going to talk about some things here. Now, keep in mind, the subject in this situation is firing from an elevated position down, and it's a single shot that enters to the left of what's referred to as the midline of the neck. Now, there's a ton of blood that comes out from this hole in Charlie's neck immediately. And one of the things kind of interesting is that Charlie actually drew up his right arm. And if you'll remember, in the Zapruder film for JFK, when JFK got shot, his arms immediately go up and he raises his hands, right? And this is a general response. It's a neuromuscular response. A lot of people had questions as to why his arms went up like that, and that's why. We discussed the gun a little bit, but it was a Mauser 30-06, so that's a 30 caliber round. The 06 comes in because the round was actually developed in 1906, and it's a weapon of war. It was used in World War I, World War II, and Korea. Nowadays, it's used for deer hunting primarily. The Mauser is a German-manufactured weapon originally, so one of the things that kind of struck me about this is how, because a Mauser is a very robust weapon, has a wooden stock, it's not like a modern weapon where you can take it down very easily and just break it down into these small parts like you can an AR-15. You can't do that. And I covered enough of that earlier, but that's the part of this whole fucking thing that I can't wrap my mind around. I don't believe he stuck that thing down his pants. I just don't buy it. Another odd piece to this, he didn't cycle the weapon, okay, because the spent round was still in the rifle. This is a bolt action rifle. You have to physically cycle it every time you shoot a round. So you shoot a round, you pull that bolt back, it ejects the round you just shot, and it puts another live round in there, and you cycle it through that chamber. That didn't happen in this case. He actually left the weapon with that spent round still in place. Now, they did mention, speaking of forensics, during this investigation, they had several prints. One of those was a palm print that was on the actual gun itself. They had some prints from where he jumped off the roof, apparently, and had some shoe prints there as well. But look, prints are great, but if you don't have a record, you can load those in NCIC and they're not going to have any hits. They're not going to tell you who that person was, but it was great that they did get some prints, and maybe it'll prove that that kid was actually there. But you know, another question that I did get asked was, how did the Mossad, we talked a little bit about them earlier, but how did the Mossad know that Charlie Kirk, the Israeli CIA, if you will, that Charlie Kirk was killed 20 minutes before it was announced? And that is kind of the easiest thing for me to answer here. Look, it didn't take a rocket scientist when you saw that video to know there was no way Charlie Kirk could survive that. There's no miracle in the world where Charlie Kirk could survive that. If you had the finest team of vascular surgeons ever known to man standing right there when he got shot, ready to go, it was still unsurvivable, that injury. And they knew that. I mean, they weren't going out on a limb by any means by declaring him dead. And how do we know that? Well, it comes down to the trajectory of the round. When that round hit Charlie Kirk, it transected the vessels in his neck. Now, think of it this way. You know when you feel your pulse, okay, adjacent to your larynx, you can actually feel the pulse throbbing. Well, this shot was just to the left of the larynx. And what else is along that path? The cervical spine. So if you think about it, C1, C2, C3, C4, anything in that range, that shot is going to be unsurvivable. Why? Because in that area, that's actually what controls your diaphragm. So taking in air, pushing out air, that's all controlled by C1, C2, C3, and C4 of your spine. You're not going to have that capability if you just got shot in that area. So that shot was unsurvivable in any circumstance. And some people have also asked me, is there any way to know where he was actually aiming? And let me tell you what the FBI is going to do, because they're going to be all over this thing. There's going to be a trial in this. It's going to be a death penalty trial, according to all accounts. So this kid ain't going to plea to anything. He's not going to plead guilty to death. So they're going to go back in, and the FBI is going to do a shooting recreation in the same environment. And they're going to try to match everything exactly to the way it was that day. And one of the things that you have to consider is bullet drop when you're trying to determine, well, was this guy actually aiming where the bullet hit? And there's something called bullet drop. And from 200 yards, you're not talking about much bullet drop, if any at all. But what this means is when a round is fired, just like every person on Earth, we're all impacted by gravity, right? Well, projectiles are no different. So gravity is going to start to pull that round actually down the second it leaves that gun. So let's just say an individual may have been aiming for center mass of someone's head. It could drop, potentially that much. You also have other factors to consider, like crosswinds, you have tailwinds. All these things affect the trajectory of that bullet. So I don't think he was necessarily aiming for, nobody really aims for the neck. I think he was aiming for center mass to the head, and he had just a slight drop from 200 yards, but maybe some winds carry it where it ended up hitting Charlie Kirk. And lastly, on that, as it relates to like forensic evidence, one of the things that stuck out to me, and I said a little bit about this earlier, they should have released pictures earlier. That's my interpretation of it. That's my opinion of it. I think those pictures should have went out immediately. And why is that? Because you've got these images out there, and it becomes what the military would refer to as a force multiplier. You put those images out, hundreds of thousands of millions of people, all of their eyes are on that picture because this is such a big story. Anywhere he's ever gone, anyone he ever knows, family, friends, enemies, doesn't matter. They're going to be looking at that picture, and if they recognize TR in this case, they're going to call the police and say, I know that guy. And that's just what happened. But it took a little while, and we're very fortunate this kid didn't go on another shooting spree somewhere. I just feel like they should have released that when they had it 4 hours after the shooting. The more eyes on that thing, the better. So there you have it. That is all the information up to right now when I'm recording this. Anyway, of course, this is an active investigation. Some of the things I said on here may be proved to be different as we go along in the investigation, but that's where I'm at right now. Thank you so much for listening. Check out the Patreon. I'm going to put some things that I talked about on here on the Patreon page for supporters of that page. So check that out. Linked in the comments if you're interested in joining all the celebrities on Patreon. Many prayers going out to the family of Charlie Kirk. Just couldn't imagine. Horrible, tragic situation. And we just got to quit this as a country, in my opinion. This is too much hate. It's just too much hate. You can disagree. We can agree to disagree and walk away and not have to kill each other. I hope we can get back to that. And until next time, for Exposed, Scandalous, Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.